Hello my friends and welcome back. It is Wednesday my dudes, hump day edition of a video, and you know what? Yesterday was the 24th of February 2026. That means it's the 4-year anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion into Ukraine. And what's more ironic or even sad to my eyes is 24th of February is actually the Independence Day of Estonia. They chose to invade Ukraine on our Independence Day. What the hell, Russia? But for the 4-year anniversary, it's like a sad anniversary. I think we should use this moment to commemorate the heroes and look back at the first days of the invasion, because that was the shock to the entire world. That's the moment when the post-World War II rules-based world order ended. So, I want to introduce you to two heroes of Ukraine who were one of the very first casualties. We're talking first minutes of the invasion. We're talking about the border crossings. Both of them were border guards. These two men sacrificed their lives to buy valuable time, hours or even minutes to their comrades who set up defensive positions. First one, Marine Vitaly Skakun was killed on February 24th, 2022 after detonating the Hainicesc road bridge with himself on it. It slowed down Russia's push from Crimea and gave Ukraine time to prepare defenses in the south. And this is what the hero looks like. He was born in 96, by the way. He was my age at the time. When war started, full-scale invasion started. He became the first serviceman of full-scale invasion to receive the title of Hero of Ukraine with the wording for exceptional personal courage and heroism. Vitaly was born on August 19th, 1996 in Berezhany, Ternopil region. His father was a local police officer, his mother a school teacher. At school, he read historical books and collected model cars. In Lviv, he trained as a welder and practiced arm wrestling. In 2019, he signed a contract and joined the Ukrainian Marine Corps. He served in the 35th Separate Marine Brigade. By the way, this very same brigade we have given trucks to, and they were the brigade that was in Krinky, over the Kherson, over the Dnipro River, the small bridgehead in 23 and 24. I don't know if you remember, but they had this small bridgehead over the river, and the 35th Brigade was there. 2 rotations in eastern Ukraine. He studied combat engineering and taught school children in Kherson region how to recognize mines and explosive devices. On the evening of February 23rd, he told his mother by phone, "It will start soon. No one will help us. We have to fight back ourselves." 4 a.m. on February 24th, his unit was put on alert. Sappers were ordered to mine the bridge between the Arabat Spit and Hainicesc. A Russian tank column was moving from Crimea. About 5 kilometers remained to the bridge. Skakun and his comrade Alexander Tkach laid explosives, stretched detonating wire, moved 500 meters away and waited for the command. The order came, detonate. They pressed the trigger and nothing happened. And here is where our protagonist's heroism comes into play. The Russian tanks kept advancing. The explosives were strong enough to destroy 3 9-story buildings. If the bridge stood, the column would break through to the mainland. Skakun told his comrade, "Sanya, fall back, I'll do it." He took the capacitor, blasting machine and ran back onto the bridge. Seconds later, the explosion went off. He literally sacrificed himself to blow up the bridge that delayed Russian first tank column into Ukrainian mainland for hours. And I want to introduce you to another hero who is also amongst the very first casualties of the first minutes of the Russia's border crossing. 4 years ago, Staff Sergeant Denis Tkach became the first Ukrainian soldier killed in action, marking the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He was the very first soldier killed. He was slain at 3:40 local time at a border crossing checkpoint in the village of Zhorinivka, Luhansk Oblast. Tkach spotted a group of Russian soldiers advancing through the heavy snow towards the Ukrainian modestly defended position using thermal imaging goggles. This group was the forward elements of one of the multiple Russian invasion forces. He instructed 5 younger troops under his command at the checkpoint to withdraw in silence and then heroically took control of the checkpoint's only machine gun. Tkach engaged the Russians in a brief but fierce exchange of gunfire before being fatally wounded. in his critical juncture, facing a vastly superior enemy forces without reinforcements and with limited ammunition. Such resolution allowed 5 others to survive. I chose these 2 heroes because both were at border points. They were the very first ones to face down overwhelming enemy invasion force, and they chose to send their friends and co-fighters back and sacrifice themselves. And we have seen this happening in the Ukrainian army time and time again. If you look at this photo, you might think it's just another row of Russian transport planes, but these are the planes. This is the photo taken on 23rd of February 2022, 1 day before the full-scale invasion started. These planes were to be filled with Russian Desantniks, VDV fighters, semi-elite paratroopers of the Russian army who were supposed to land in Hostomel airfield, overwhelming the entire Kievian defense. But this operation failed. Why? Well, the reason is twofold. Russian planning was absolutely horrible, not taking into account almost anything that should have been taken into account when planning such a massive operation. And number 2, Ukrainian courageous resolve to fight back with police forces, firefighters, territorial defense brigades, locals who had weapons. Everybody fought back. But in the end, what determined for these planes not to be able to land was Ukrainians shelling the tarmac of Hostomel airfield moments before the planes were supposed to land, rendering the tarmac unusable. The only Desantniks who landed in Hostomel were with the Ka-52 attack helicopters and with the transport helicopters. There were about a few hundred of them, and by morning they were all dead. What happened to the choppers? Not all of them, but a big portion of them was actually shot down by Ukrainian shoulder-fired anti-air missiles. One video that was not released until a few days ago. It's filmed by a Russian soldier in Hostomel airfield in 24th of February, and we only just saw this footage. It shows a Russian Ka-52 boom, being shot down by Ukrainian manpad, just like that. And that was the outcome for a big portion of the choppers and the Desantniks who were in them or who landed. They were all blown to smithereens. In the end, Hostomel was a devastating failure for the Russians. It was supposed to be this triumph of an operation, massive and very ambitious, and it failed spectacularly. And of course, 4 years later, everybody knows these memes. It was supposed to be a 3-day special military operation. But if you look at this meme also 4 years later, I mean, Russia is still in the process of losing. Georgia, 2008, a bloody trail. Ukraine, 2014, bloody trail. 2015, Syria. 2022, Ukraine. Russia's death opens the door. Blades. There's a javelin operated by 2 Ukrainian fighters on the other side. These were actually the photos and videos we got from the first days of war. It was the javelins sent, by the way, also by Estonia, by the United States, by every country who sent them just before full-scale invasion started. These javelins and Bayraktars made the biggest difference at the moment. Putin says, look, a shooting star. I wish Crimea was Russian. It's Storm Shadow, bloods. Yeah, what a surprise for him that his army is not number 2 in the world, but number 2 in Ukraine. And now let's look at the conversations. When Russia massed their forces on the Ukrainian border, I remember that starting in November 2021, and I covered it all the time, monthly back then, up until 24th of February 2022. People were talking online. People were talking shit, saying, you're delusional, you're stupid, they're not gonna invade, you're idiots. Check it out. For example, George Galloway. You all said Russia was about to invade Ukraine. I told you it wasn't. You were wrong. I was right. Again. Show some bloody humility. Especially if they're not even paying you to act like an idiot. And this was posted on February 14th, 2022. Aged like milk, because 10 days later, the post-World War II rules-based order was demolished. Caitlin Johnstone said, I want you to promise me you'll completely revise your worldview and drastically change your media consumption habits when March gets here and the invasion still hasn't happened. Posted on 18th of February 2022. 6 days later, Russia invades Ukraine. We have countless examples of Scott Ritter is here. We have countless of examples of these conversations online of people, supposed on Russia's payroll or not, or maybe useful idiots, saying that Russia will in no way invade. Look elsewhere. Don't worry about it. Well, I was saying the quite opposite. If you look at my videos in January 2022, the title is "When Will It Happen?" Already a month before. So these people, now in hindsight, we know some of them were on Russia's payroll, others were useful idiots, but now we all know to trust our own minds more than the screaming people online. We were right, they were wrong. Now let me show you what this 4 years of war on a map looks like. This is the 1st of June 2022, so this is after Russians had already been beaten in Kiev. They pulled out of northern Ukraine, and this is the map of southern and eastern Ukraine where they remained. Let's skip 4 years in 1 minute, and you can see the difference in 4 years. I mean, as long as Soviet-German war happened, not the whole World War II, but the Soviet-German part of it. Look at that. That has got to be the slowest advance of any modern war. And immediately you can see the Kharkiv counteroffensive, which happened in lightning speed. This is true blitzkrieg that the Ukrainians did here. But Russia's advance forward, and then the Kherson was liberated, of course. But Russia's advance slower than a snail. It's a weird statistic. If snails started from Donetsk in 24th of February 2022, by now it would have been in Berlin. Snails move at a certain pace, very slowly, but steadily at a certain pace. And this is many, many times faster than the whole Russian army in 4 years. The snail would have been in Berlin right now. So they are officially slower than snails, big time slower. And the entire casualties, over 1 million casualties in wounded and dead combined 4 years later. What's the difference then? Well, I'll tell you. The difference is 58 kilometers from Donetsk city, the starting point of the full-scale invasion. 57 kilometers, what is it, like 30 miles, something like that, in 4 years and 1 million casualties. So it really shows you that Russia truly is the second army in Ukraine. And now I will let a Russian historian speak about what Putin has done to Russia. Not what he's done to the world, okay, but what he has done to Russia, his own people, his own country. He ruined everything. The enormous funds accumulated, which, thanks to high oil prices, could have been used to develop society above all. He threw away and burned the furnace of war and achieved nothing. And yes, the funds accumulated. Russia had accumulated ever since the year 2000 to 2022. They had accumulated massive, mind-boggling wealth. There was half of it was held in the Western countries, which is frozen still about $300 billion. Another half in the Russian National Welfare Fund, which is over $300 billion, something like that, in gold and foreign assets. They had a massive, massive fund and foreign assets fund. It's all wasted. It's all gone. Foreign assets are frozen and National Welfare Fund is almost empty. With that money, they could have built a school in every Russian village, a hospital in every Russian town, modernize every apartment building in Russia with that money. But Putin chose violence and war, of course, and could have not have achieved anything. Russia's reputation is ruined for many decades. The reputation is the second thing I want to talk about. Before the full-scale invasion, there were movies like Enemy at the Gates and other movies that glorified the Soviet war effort and Russians. There were Call of Duty games that portrayed Russians as a very modern army with night visions and UGVs and drones well before they had any of that. That was the image that they built up for themselves. All of that shattered in the first months of war, where Ukraine showed that the Russian army is an incapable bunch of barbarians with Kalashnikovs. The money is squandered. We've been kicked out of the G7. Nothing is left, you see. Nothing is left. Now, after Putin, a long, difficult process of restoration awaits us. Of restoring our psyche, restoring the economy, and restoring trust around the world. this is not the work of one day. The sooner it begins, the easier it will be for us to get out of this catastrophe, out of the unbelievable pit that we have been led into. Our 20 years of this long rule by Vladimir. Yeah, Putin is a very stupid man. Like a very bad strategist. I mean, he expanded NATO by 2 countries. He's best salesman of NATO and a horrible strategist. But also, 4 years later, 4 years of covering this war, I cannot forget you, my friends. You who you are watching and those who are supporting the channel. Of course, now numbers a little bit diminished, but that is okay. We will fight on with those who are with us. And who is with us is one new member on Buy Me a Coffee. Oscar Foltars. Yes, Oscar Foltars. I will butcher every new member on Buy Me a Coffee. So if you want to get your name butchered, sign up. Let's end this war this year, 2026, on the 5th year of war. Let's do it together. You remember on Monday I spoke about the Kaleikino oil pumping station, which pumps oil to the Druzhba pipeline, which is responsible for the western export of oil. It went to Slovakia, it went to Hungary, and Ukraine has been striking the Druzhba pipeline in different places, 5-6 different places already, to ensure that Russia physically is unable to export oil to the European Union. Now the Kaleikino strike was done by flamingos, the pink flamingos that like to explode in Russia's and Putin's rear areas that he enjoys so much. Well, this node, this oil pipeline pumping station was struck again yesterday, 24th of February, the 4-year anniversary. A little gift for Putin. This is painful, because this pipeline pumps about 20% of the entire oil production of Russia through it. And now it's burning. Burning good. Let's look at some footage also. I mean, look at that. You don't put out this fire. You might put out this fire in America, but in Russia, nah, you're gonna just watch it burn and fry a sausage on it if you want to. Free barbecue to the citizens on the expense of the state. Ah, this is even a better. Look how big these flames are. Yeah, this means the Ukrainians really hit a fuel silo that was full to the brink. And look, this is where it is. This is the pumping station, and this is the Druzhba pipeline that went through Poland, went through Ukraine, into Hungary and Slovakia. Both of them want to buy this oil even nowadays. But of course, Poland blocked it a long time ago. Ukraine blocked it actually last year, ending of last year. And now the pipeline itself is struck monthly. So this pipeline is physically unable to work, which is good. Now Hungary and Slovakia want to buy Russia's oil through the Turk stream that goes south, bypassing Ukraine, which is incredibly stupid. I mean, get a grip. Honestly, Hungary and Slovakia both, get a grip. Buy from Norway or something. Why you gotta buy from Russia? Here's another angle. I mean, this is 1,100 kilometers from Ukraine. I mean, these flamingos, they know how to fly far and find the right target. And many of these attacks will be done with Flamingo missiles in the future. Flamingo truly, for the Russians, is truly a terror weapon, because they have nothing to do against it. It's almost like a ballistic trajectory missile. It flies really fast. It has a 1-ton warhead. Russians really cannot shoot them down, and when it explodes, it makes a massive, massive kaboom. And look, this fuel silo was exploded. There's many more, but the thing is, to work a pipeline, you gotta keep it pressurized. You gotta have a certain amount of fuel ready to, stabilize the pressure. That's not the reality anymore in this oil pumping station of Kaleikino. And flamingos, of course, I'm a huge fan, and I know so are you. If you want to toast to this hero bird, flamingo, that flies to Russia and makes it burn like that, you can do that with the Ukrainians. You can do that with wine from Bakhmut. Art wine, Flamingo edition, only for my channel's viewers, only for you, my friends. Links in the description below. These bottles were smuggled out of Bakhmut's cellars right before Prigozhin's goons stole the rest of them. And they stole over 1 million bottles. And about few tens of thousands were smuggled out. And now there's only some of them left, a few thousand bottles left. So if you want to get your hands on the very last ones, click the link in the description below. Art wine, Flamingo edition for you, my friends. Until my next video, which will be every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, be sure to be back, be sure to subscribe. Slava Ukraini, and bye bye.